We have the long-awaited 13.3 patch notes review for Teamfight Tactics, and this is a big one because they skipped 13.2, and they're going to load a lot of stuff in 13.3 because there's some issue before 2 weeks ago, and so now we have like the big mama patch that we're about to go over. So lots of changes here. I know a lot of people saw some previews already, but let's go over the summary first, and then we'll go into all the details, and then I'm going to tell you how I think it's going to affect the game and potentially change the meta. Well, not potentially. It will change the meta, but I'll go into a little bit more specifics at the end. So buffing admin, I think 4 admin and 6 admin don't get a lot of love. 2 admin is probably okay though. Lux, probably the worst unit in the game. Fiora, she's like a trait bot. Jax, okay, maybe we see more Jax carries. I actually think Jax is actually okay right now, but he could be a tiny bit better. Jinx, I think is fine too, but they're gonna buff her anyways. Talia, yeah, for sure, probably needs some buffs. Ancient Archives, yeah, both of them are probably one of the worst performing augments because you pretty much just take it when there's just nothing better to take. I mean, that's every augment, right? But this one is just, you never take it because you're like, oh, wow, yeah, I really want that one. Mecha, Prime Crown, and Underground Soul are both being buffed, and then 12 hero augments are being changed as well. So now onto the nerfs. We have Birthday Present, well-deserved. Brawler Crown, well-deserved too. Clear Mind and Cluttered Mind. I'm surprised they're nerfing Cluttered because I know Clear is really good, but Cluttered is definitely worse than Clear Mind. Maybe they want to keep them both consistent with each other, and that's why they're both getting nerfed instead of just one of them. Heart Crown getting nerfed. Yeah, this one, it gives you a ZZ Rot portal, so it's just way too good. They're probably going to change the item there. Hustler, yes. March of Progress, yes. Prankster Crown, yes. Okay, I agree with all of these so far. Spellslinger, I'm not really too sure about, but pretty much everything else I am agreed with, except for like a little bit on the Cluttered Mind. Depends what they do though. And then 3 hero augments, MF, Talon, and Silas are all being changed. Adjusting Laser Core, Oxforce, Underground, and Viego. Reworking Janna and Gadgettine. And then they're adding back Pandora's item. So that's like pretty big, juicy stuff. Let's get into the system changes. So if you guys did not check out one of my previous videos, I went over the 4 hero augment rerolls that kind of happened, and I don't actually think they're going to change the game that much. The times it will change is probably on 2-1 will have the most impact because that's the only time where you get random augments, and it'll definitely help a lot there. The game will be much more fun because there's so many games where I have like the perfect start for, let's say, brawlers, and then on my augments I get all defender or like mascot augments, and then I'm just like, what the hell am I supposed to do? So they fixed that, which is good. And also, you don't have to completely tailor your board before the 3-2 and 4-2 augment stages because you have the rerolls to kind of get into what you want. So definitely very nice stuff. And yeah, is 4 enough? Is 4 too much, too little? That remains to be seen. But overall, I think this is a good change for the game. And you still will have to take like some mediocre augments, I think, because of the way the mechanic works. Again, check out the other video if you have questions on that. But they'll always generate a new selection of unique hero augments. In other words, there will be no repeats, and that's very important. It pretty much never did that before either. Item tooltips. Riot Mort, our lead game designer, went through all the item tooltips and reformatted them. Okay, that's good. So they're simpler to read and easier to read. And then all the stats are on the top bar and core effects remain in the body. Tooltips have been even organized to the umpteenth degree, and I'm pretty sure you won't even be able to tell the difference, but they're organized very well. In case you can, thanks, Mort. All right. I have some TFT eggs to give out. I'll give out 1 egg code if someone finds like an inconsistency in the item tooltips. Just like DM me if you do find one. First come, first serve though. So if you're the second one to tell me, you won't get it. Large changes, large like Poggle's head. All right, so admin health threshold variation change, the 40% to 66%. Yeah, whenever admins hit a certain health threshold, I never really liked those choices. I mean, you take them because they were like the best option or like the only stat that you needed out of the 3 options you had, but I was never happy about these, so maybe this now makes people happy about them. Gadgettine rework, they now gain bonus damage and damage reduction for each item equipped to them. And let's look at the rest of the changes before we conclude stuff. New 3 Gadgettine gain 3% bonus damage and damage reduction per item, and then at 5 they gain 12%. Do they still get the Gadgettine item? So just like being a teenager, long-term planning is not the strong suit of Gadgettine, but the trait suffers mid to late game. Whether you blame that on the teen angst or the trait's inability to keep up with mid and late game traits, something's got to give. Okay, so it seems like they don't really say you're not going to get the item anymore, so it's not like removing that part. So this is just like pure buff to Gadgettines, which is really good because I really enjoyed playing them. And Nunu is probably like my favorite legendary of the set. Adjusted laser core damage is being changed from 369 to 3579. I said this at the start of the set when I did the set preview. They hate 369, and then they added it back into the game. So it's no surprise that they're changing it. Like, I don't know why they did it in the first place. It should have always been 3579, based on their old learnings or whatever. So yeah, I want to know why they initially made it 369. Maybe they explained that somewhere. If someone does know, let me know. Always watching laser core % chance for drone to deal magic damage is removed and now always procs. That's a lot better, visually at least. And then they're going to adjust the damage on it to hopefully be around like the same amount. I bet if we look at it, it would be, yeah, it's probably going to be a smoother curve, but also more pew-pew lasers, which were core to the trait. Yeah, so it should be around the same. And yeah, hopefully it's a decent change. Oxforce units now stay at 1 health after their Oxforce immunity ends. There's some bugs with like death animations with this, or like on death effects. So this is probably there to fix that. Underground changed from 3 and 5 to 3, 4, 5, 6. Very interesting. I don't know if they needed to do that, but the underground locks crack per win is changed from 2 to 3 to 2, 2, 3, 4, and then for loss it's 3, 5, and 3, 4, 5, 7. I guess 6 underground should be really fun, but I don't know if they needed to do this. I think going from 3 to 5 was a little more interesting because now I think underground, like maybe the 4 underground is really, really strong. I guess you only get 1 more per loss. Maybe it's not that worth it. Maybe the change is fair. This one's really tough to judge. So essentially like 5 is staying the same. It's 3 and 5. And then they added 6. But the one we have to think about is the 4 underground. Is it worth running? Maybe not actually. I don't really know. I have to test it out one game to know for sure. Lux maximum mana is being reduced by 10. Fair enough. Does she need more? Does she need less? 10 mana on like 70 to 60 is a pretty big change. I think for Yuumi, they did something very similar, and then it made her like the best unit in the game. They changed it from like 60 to 50 or something like that. Of course, Lux isn't going to be the best unit in the game, but maybe she isn't the worst unit anymore. Onto the next one, units tier 2, Draven Whirling Death attack damage ratio being nerfed a little bit. Base damage is being nerfed as well. Draven reroll wasn't that strong. It was pretty good. He's also getting Armor and Magic Resist nerf. I think it's more like Mecha Prime being weird, but I don't think Draven was like that oppressive. I feel like you only go for him in like certain spots and only one player could play him. So I think Draven was actually fine, but I guess they thought otherwise. Fiora Armor and Magic Resist is being buffed by 5. And then that's good because she's always been kind of like the main tank for duelist units other than Nyla, of course. And then for Oxforce, like kind of the secondary tank to Annie and Alistair. Is she better than Annie in an Oxforce build? They're about the same. I don't really value one over the other. But yeah, I guess it's fair to buff her. Jinx max mana buff is being changed from 3090 to 2080, so that's definitely a big buff there. I've always thought Jinx was fine, but I guess she needed a little more juice apparently. Units tier 3, Jack's base strike adaptive damage is now scaling with ability power, so that's really good. This is a change they wanted to put in before, but because they couldn't release 13.2, they had to hold off on it. They could only do number changes before, but this should make Jax like a lot more powerful. It's not really that big of a buff, but it's giving you more outs. So like regular Jax isn't changed that much, but if you build like specifically AP Jax, before it would kind of be not that great, but now it should be pretty good. So it's essentially just giving you more options. Units tier 4, Talia Wall Weaver damage is being buffed just a tiny bit. This is only one part of her damage. This is the explosion part, but like a small damage buff is pretty good for her, right? It really helps more with her non-one-tap builds, the ones where she casts a lot and very often. So if you ever go like 7-star Guardian, or you have like 2 mana items on her or something like that, or maybe you have like a Hextech Gunblade plus mana item build, you don't have that much damage on her, that should help a lot because she'll get more cast off and make a pretty good use of this buff. For the one-tap Talia builds, maybe it puts you over damage thresholds, most likely not, because I think she was already one-tapping a lot of things before. So that doesn't really affect that build at all. Viego Heartbreaker damage is now centered around the primary target rather than Viego. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Bug fix, it should no longer fail to deal damage in certain situations. It can still miss if enemies leave the AoE of the spell. I did notice that sometimes it does like 0 damage. I did not know it was a bug. I thought they just gained a shield that I didn't know about. But the logic is more intuitive and reliable now. And they predict Viego will be cleaning up boards much more successfully. So they have a preemptive nerf. So they're lowering his damage just by like a tiny, tiny bit to the secondary targets. I think that's fair. If they did the testing and they're like, yeah, he cleans up a lot more, then this should be fine. I don't know how much more it is because I haven't played with this, but like, let's assume that the balance team did their job. Units tier 5, Janna bug fix Twister. Fix a bug where Twister was doing about 20% of the intended damage as described on the tooltip. And then, yeah, this was existing since the start of the set. And that's why people never itemized Janna. She was probably the only legendary unit that like never got itemized. Twister damage is now being changed. They're nerfing it by like half just to compensate for it because it's still a buff overall. So instead of dealing 20% damage, you're dealing 50% now, which is more than double of a buff, right? So they show that here with the actual damage done. And then the stun duration is being reduced a little bit at 1-star Janna. That's fair. 1-star Janna was pretty good. And there wasn't really that much of a difference between 1 and 2-star Janna, at least in my experience. The Forecaster trait, Windy, is being nerfed a little bit. And then Sunny is being nerfed at 3-star Janna. Why are they doing that? That seems so weird. I feel like you should just have the 3-star Janna be absolutely insane. Or just like not even change it at all, you know? It's just not that important. Items Infinity Force previously did not have mana nor critical strike chance stats. They were supposed to add this in the last patch, but it didn't go through, so now they're adding it back in again. Hopefully it's in there for sure this time. Now onto the hero augments. Galio Justice Punch being buffed by a lot. Gangplank Flaming Ricochet buffed by a little bit. Lux Barrier Shield amount, holy cow, that's actually quite a bit. Renekton Reign of Anger base attack speed being buffed by 15%. Silas Kingslayer bonus max health nerfed a tad. Talon Oxyan Rage being nerfed a tad as well. Any Reflector Shield damage buffed. I don't know if this will ever... Oh, whoa. Reflector Shield internal cooldown 0.2 to 0.1 seconds. I feel like they made this change before, but then it didn't go through or something. Let me double check. So this is the second time they're actually buffing this. It used to be 0.5 seconds, now it's 0.1. I think it's actually going to... I said this last time that it'd be good, but honestly, whenever I've taken this in stage, specifically on stage 2-1, it's extremely good. You will win streak all of stage 2 if you take this. Now it for sure will as well, and hopefully it's usable past that. It's only bad if you take it on 3-2, but if it gives you like an early Annie 2, the shield is just perma win streak. Like, trust me on this. Before this buff, it was. But now that it is buffed, it's even better. And the damage also got buffed. So I think this is actually going to be pretty good. I know I said this last time and I was wrong, but I promise you this time it's different, right? Fiora carry, armor and magic resistance buffed up by 75. Yeah, that's pretty good. I felt like it was fine already, but I guess like more Fiora buff's pretty good. She's a little underplayed, I guess. Jinx Get Excited Rework now grants a Jinx. Jinx gains 40% attack speed and move speed. This amount is tripled for 7 seconds after she scores a takedown. Lee Sin Invigorate attack speed buff duration up by 1 second. You know, I heard that Lee Sin's Cleansing Safeguard was actually really broken. I'm not sure why. Some people say it sucks. Some people say it's the best augment ever, but we'll have to see how people like learn how to use it. But they didn't change it here. Malphite Rock Solid armor to ability power conversion being buffed up by 50%. Rel Hold the Line buffed by 10. Hold the Line damage reduction buffed by 5%. Yeah, this one wasn't really that great. I never felt happy taking this, but it's not because the augment's bad. It's because I think Rel doesn't really fit in that many comps. Misfortune Make It Rain now grants 10 to 20 gold based on stage number. It grants 10 gold on stage 3, 20 on stage 4 and after. Makes a lot of sense. Make It Rain on stage 3-2 was probably one of the best augments you could get. Set Regenerative Shields now grants a Protector's Vow instead of a Locket. That makes huge sense, but I think this is really, extremely, incredibly strong now because Protector's Vow is such a good mech item because it gives you so much resistances and like a shield based on your max health on the mech. Like, I think this is like one of the best third items on mech. Janna Rapid Reporting reworked to category 5. And this is now gain a Janna. Janna gains 50 ability power and her ability deals true damage. Okay, I'm excited to see that, especially with the damage changes to Janna. Nunu They See Me Rolling buffed ability power from 10 to 20. Fair enough. This is probably one of my favorite augments. I'm going to keep taking it no matter what, especially after they buffed it. Now onto the regular augments. Ancient Archives now gives 2 gold. Ancient Archives 2 now gives 8 gold. Makes a lot of sense. Birthday Present no longer grants gold on level up. I did not understand why that gave gold in the first place, but I'm glad they removed it. Brawler's Crown now gives a Protector's Vow instead of Redemption. Very big nerf. Even though Vow is still good in Brawlers because it's one of Sejuani's best items, it's still like a very welcome change because Redemption is by far Hands down the best item on brawlers. Clear Mind now only grants experience at the end of player combat rounds, so no longer on PvE rounds. Cluttered Mind, I'm assuming the same thing. And Cluttered Mind now gives 4 random tier 1 champions. Oh, so I was correct when I talked about it in the summary, that Cluttered Mind was a lot weaker than Clear Mind. And they give you something to kind of like work around that, which is really nice of them. Cluttered Mind might actually be better than Clear Mind now that I think about it, because you could get random 2 stars early on. This is like getting a free shop, essentially. It's like getting 6 gold because you get like 4 choices of champions and then you get to buy them as well. So it's like pressing D once and then getting 4 of them. So yeah, this is worth 6 gold. Very, very good at the start of the game. I really want to take Cluttered Mind right now. Heart Crown now gives a Guard Breaker instead of ZZ Portal. I wonder why they settled on Guard Breaker. That seems like such a weird item. But yeah, ZZ Portal way too strong in the early game. But Guard Breaker seems so weird. Do you want that in a Heart comp? Like, what if no one has shields, you know? I know a lot of tank units do have shields, but like, what if you just don't need it? It seems like it's going to be pretty bad. Hustler now only grants gold at the beginning of player combat rounds. Fair enough. March of Progress now only grants experience at the beginning of player combat rounds. Again, fair enough there. What I wonder now is, you guys know the Augment Cruel Pact? It's a lot weaker now. I wonder if they reverted the nerf they did to it and then have it not heal you on the PvE rounds, if it would be balanced. Maybe that's a better way to approach it, because I think it's much weaker now, and before it was like way too strong. So this is kind of like the middle ground, maybe for Cruel Pact. Mecha Prime Crown now grants Bloodthirster instead of Titan's Vow. I thought it was Titan's Resolve, but isn't Titan's Resolve better than Bloodthirster? I don't really know. They're both really good on the mech, but I feel like Titan's Vow is better. And it's a little more thematic, because Titan's Vow, any mech can use it, whereas Bloodthirster, only like tank or damage mechs can use it. But like on a tank, sometimes you just want like the more stats, right? Instead of the lifesteal. They say it's a buff, I think, but it's really close, because Titan's Resolve is one of my favorite items on the mech. Pandora's items added back into the augment pool. Prankster Crown now grants Morellonomicon instead of Edge of Night. Is that a nerf? Prankster is really good because Edge of Night is good on Zed, and you typically play Zed with Zoe and Hacker for Prankster, and like they just go hand in hand, right? But Morello, it seems better because you could just drop that on your Zoe. I thought they said they were nerfing this. Yeah, it says nerf here to Prankster, and then they say that the Mecha Prime Crown got buffed, but I'm kind of like on the opposite end here. Did they say anything about it? Let me check in the augment section. They don't really talk about it here. I guess it's difference of opinion, you know? Maybe the data says one thing, but I think it's going to be like the opposite, but that's just me. Recon Crown now grants Hand of Justice instead of Zeke's Herald. Also, for these changes, it depends like when you get the augment as well, because it's different on 2-1 versus 4-2, but that's a discussion for a different day. This is for sure a nerf, because I think Zeke's Herald was so good in recon comps, but yeah, Hand of Justice is still very usable, so it's still a good augment. Spellslinger Crown now gives a Hand of Justice instead of Jeweled Gauntlet. Yeah, this is like, they get a best in slot item. It's not really that fair. But instead of Hand of Justice, I think they should give a Rabadon's Death Cap. The reason why is because Hat is not that great of an item in Spellslinger. It's very usable, don't get me wrong, but it's almost like having too much of one stat. You have like too much AP, that's why Jeweled Gauntlet's a lot better. The thing about Hand of Justice is that you don't care about the AD portion of Hand of Justice, and sometimes you don't even care about the healing. So I think it's a lot more fair to give like maybe a Chalice or give a Rabadon's Death Cap to Spellslinger Crown. Underground Soul now grants a ZZ Portal instead of Hextech Gunblade. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So Underground Soul actually seems very, very, very good now, because you will not get completely wrecked in the early game anymore. Wow, I don't even know why I gave a Hextech Gunblade before. That makes no sense. But yeah, Zizirot, Underground Soul, watch out. I think this might be a very good augment now, especially with the 2, 3, 4, 5, or like 3, 4, 5, 6 underground change. So now onto the small changes. Anima Squad, attack damage and ability power is going to be buffed at 5 anima and 7 anima. Ooh, I didn't know it needed that. I kind of like playing 5 and 7, so I guess I'll keep doing it. Brawler health is being buffed at 4 and 6 brawler. Yeah, that's fair. They were a tad weaker. Mascot max mana healing, they're getting buffed again. Ooh, is the regular Yuumi build back in action? I've been playing the Star Guardian version of the Yuumi build. I just made a video on it yesterday, so definitely check that out if you have not, because I think it's a very strong comp right now. Units tier 1, Kale, Starfire, Spellblade attack damage ratio being buffed by 5%. And then the base damage is being buffed a tiny bit. Did this need it? I don't know. I always thought Kale carry was kind of viable, but maybe it needed an extra lift, as they say. Vel'Koz updated the tooltip to include that an enemy cannot be stunned again for 4 seconds after being stunned. This has always been the case. We're just adding the tooltip now for clarity. Glad they did that because it took me like 3 weeks into the set to realize that there was a cooldown on it. I thought it was just bugged every time, and I thought they were going to fix it. But for items, better Thieves Gloves item distribution is now slightly more favorable at higher levels. Very fair. I always thought Thieves was like super good anyway, so I'm glad that they're buffing it. It's just like one of my favorite items. Not my pure favorite item, but one of them. Hero Augment, that's Hyper Roll, I don't really care. Mobile, iOS 12 will no longer be supported in the next update, so you'll need to upgrade your phone. I guess I'm sorry guys if you play mobile and don't have like the newer iOSs. Yeah, that kind of sucks for those players. I'm guessing there aren't that many though. If not, they would not go through with this change. I hope. Man, I feel bad. But now onto the bug fixes. Janna bug fix Twister, fix a bug. Okay, they already described that. Samira bug fix where Samira's spell would sometimes choose illegal targets. What's illegal? Or not switch targets correctly. Yeah, that's good. Sometimes her spell would fizzle out. I'm assuming this addresses that. So Samira buff overall then. I don't know how often it happened though. I just noticed it happens sometimes. Monsters attack pass text fix. It now says it ends March 14th, but it's actually meant to end March 21. Slow motion echoes attack speed. Slow no longer affects units protected from CC with Quicksilver. Very fair. Typo in League of Draven, typo in Admin, and typo in Lux. Ezreal support augment no longer says grant 0 gold. Should have picked a real weapon. Fix an issue where Jax was receiving an AP bonus from Fiddlesticks augment and would cause Jax to stop attacking for the rest of combat. Yeah, I noticed this in a game that I played off stream like maybe 1 month ago. And I was so pissed because it costed me the game. So I ended up not giving my Fiddlesticks augment to my Jax, so I was just like down an augment. Felt bad, but you know, it is what it is. Omnivamp now applies consistently regardless of the source. Affected sources are Hackers, Siphoning Winds, Partners in Crime, and Celestial Blessing. I'm not sure what this means, but OMG Golden Egg buffs fix a bug where 2 of the golden egg drops were missing and attended Tactician's Crown. Holy cow. That's actually a big difference. It's still one of the highest data augments, like in terms of average placements, but there's a lot of bias in the data, as you can imagine. That's why you shouldn't pay that much attention to data sometimes. Improve the clarity of various tooltips, including Star Guardian, Admin, Anima Squad, Prankster, Spellslinger, and Sure Shot, and then fix a bug where Nunu and Willem's hero augments were labeled incorrectly. Carry is now properly purple, and support is green. That is a pretty big patch. So things that got buffed that weren't really necessarily pointed out. Well, first, I disagree on the Mecha Prime and the, what was it, the Prankster one. I think it's like the opposite, but semantics, you know? Overall, I think the Prankster one is a very good change because why did it give Edge of Night before? The only champion that really needs Edge of Night is Zed. But for Prankster, the Pranksters are Echo, Jinx, and Zoe. So you get a Zoe item now, like that's very fair. So now you could play other things. You're not forced into a Zed build. You could play like Pranksters with AP comps now, with like a Talia, for example. You don't have the useless Edge of Night. So overall, I think the change is very good. But I'm really glad that they're buffing Ancient Archives. So a comp that's really good with Ancient Archives is going to be the Viego comps because they really, 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 really like Toma traits because you could get either Ox Force or Renegade. And those are just so crucial in that comp because you could just have like a secondary carry. And those secondary carries can be like an Urgot or like a Fiddlesticks or an MF. And that's like extremely, extremely good. So watch out for that in those comps. Laser Core, it's apparently going to be the same strength, so we don't really have to pay that much attention to it. Notable buffs are AP and Jax. So we have to see how good the AP scaling is with Jax. I don't think I'm going to be building a Rabadon's death cap on him, but like in a worst case scenario when you're forced to, like let's say you're playing the game, you're looking for another Jax item, and then off of Wolf Camp you get like 3 rods or something like that. I don't know how many you can get, but like let's just say you had a rod from before and then you got 2 more rods from Wolf Camp. Slamming the hat won't feel that bad, you know? A lot of the like econ heavy augments got nerfed as well. March of Progress, Birthday Present, Clear Mind, Cluttered Mind, and Hustler. So a lot of those free top 4 augments, they're probably no longer free top 4s anymore. Which ones are playable? Birthday Present's probably still playable. I think Hustler's still playable, but I'm worried about March of Progress maybe because I forget exactly when you hit the next level, but I think that does slow down your level 8 a lot, which you do eventually hit. But a comp I would look out for is the Yuumi build, because I think you could play Yuumi in either the Star Guardian version or the Mascot one now. So definitely watch out for that, because it could be, it's not going to be as strong as it was before, but it definitely at least one Yuumi player per game that could be destroying a lot of people. Maybe we are actually back in the meta where there's one Yuumi reroll, one Jax reroll player, and then everyone else is playing 4 costs, but maybe the 4 costs are a bit more balanced than before. Viego should be pretty good too. A lot of people don't like Viego because he's kind of first or 8th, but with the changes to his targeting, like Riot says he's going to be a lot better, so they nerfed him preemptively. I think in the last patch he was already fine, so overall this still might be a buff because I don't think the damage got touched that much, and the targeting, like, targeting is the most important thing on Viego, right? Like, we've all seen him like miss certain units or something like that, and he's just completely useless without it, so it's probably a buff overall. Overall, they changed like a lot of the augments, and I think that's for the better. Like, I'm not going to go over every single change because like there's so many of them and it's so rare to hit, but the one thing I will point out again is the anti-reflector shield and the Lee Sin carry augment, which is not mentioned here. Like, watch out for those because they might be something to look into in the next patch. But that's going to be it for me today. We'll be updating the meta snapshot for like the official list or whatever you want to call it on Friday, as we do every single Friday. So I do hope you stick around for that. But I'm going to be playing in a tournament this weekend, so hopefully I'll be grinding out this week, streaming hopefully every day for practice, and I will see you all later.